Well, he knows what he wants, don't you, Rocco?
Sure. What's that?
Tell him, Rocco.
Well, I want,
He wants more, don't you, Rocco?
Yeah, that's it. More. That's right, I want more. Will you ever get enough?
Will you, Rocco?
Well, I never have.
This week on our second Noirvember episode, we're talking about John Huston's 1948 film noir, Key Largo. Released just 7 months after John Huston directed The Treasure of the Sierra Madre.
Badges. We ain't got no badges. We don't need no badges. I don't have to show you any stinking badges.
Better not come any closer.
Also starring Humphrey Bogart, Key Largo is the fourth and final collaboration that Bogart did both with his wife Lauren Bacall and his fifth and final collaboration with Edward G. Robinson, as well as Lionel Barrymore, Claire Trevor, Harry Lewis, Thomas Gomez, and John Rodney. It's John Huston's last film for Warner Brothers on a contract after having contracts first as a writer then as a director from 1937 to 1948. This period is also considered Huston's breakout period. Following this, he had moved to be independent, working with MGM and United Artists for a run of films like Asphalt Jungle and The African Queen. Based on a Broadway play by Maxwell Anderson, who was a reactionary conservative playwright, the play is about the cowardly King MacLeod, who went to the Spanish Civil War and deserted, fighting Mexican bandits to save the family of an actual war hero. Huston hated the play and found it extremely lacking, but was convinced to come aboard by Jerry Wald, who had bought the rights. Huston and Richard Brooks, who as a director and screenwriter adapted Cat in the Hot Tin Roof, Upton Sinclair's Elmer Gantry, and Blackboard Jungle, turned the reactionary play into something totally different. Huston was a liberal Democrat, a supporter of FDR, like Humphrey Bogart was. In the late 1940s, after FDR's death, the House Un-American Activities Committee began going after all levels of the film industry. It was John Huston who took action by creating the Committee for the First Amendment, along with William Wyler and Philip Dunn. Bogart was famously supposed to join as the most high-profile star in a protest against HUAC, but at the last minute, an inordinate amount of pressure involving both Bogart's failing production company and career were placed on him over his denunciation of HUAC's targeting of the Hollywood 10, finally leading him to recant his denunciation in a photoplay article entitled "I'm No Communist." This put a whole lot of strain on his relationship with John Huston.
Bogart and Bacall, along with other stars, flew to Washington to protest.
We sat in the committee room and heard it happen. We saw American citizens denied the right to speak by elected representatives of the people. We saw police take citizens from the stand like criminals. We saw the gavel of a committee chairman cutting off the words of free Americans. The sound of that gavel, Mr. Thomas, rings across America. Because every time your gavel struck, it hit the First Amendment to the Constitution of the United States.
I was surprised to read a few days after I got back to California that Bogey had recanted. And I talked to him about it when he came back out, and he said he thought that we had made a mistake in this. I regarded it as a mistake that Bogey did this. He should have stuck to his guns.
All of this happened between late 1947, when Bogart and Huston were finishing up Treasure of the Sierra Madre, which had filmed during the summer, and March 1948, which is when Key Largo wrapped up shooting. Key Largo, for John Huston and his committee member and friend Richard Brooks, is a primal scream against the unfairness of the House Un-American Activities Committee.
Looks like you don't want it enough, what you want. That's the last one. Something's funny for a change.
One Rocco, more or less, isn't worth dying for.
In the film, Frank McLeod, a World War II veteran who is in fact a hero, visits the family of a fallen comrade in Key Largo. His wife, Nora, played by Lauren Bacall, and his father, James Temple, played by Lionel Barrymore, who run a hotel together. Becoming stranded unexpectedly in Key Largo during a hurricane, it slowly dawns on McLeod that the closed hotel, which has been rented out for the week, is inhabited by the entourage of the infamous gangster, Johnny Rocco, who has come back to America after supposedly being deported to make a deal to sell millions of counterfeit dollars to a mob associate named Ziggy.
You can see the headlines, can't you? Local deputy captured Johnny Rocco. Your picture would be in all the papers. You might even get to tell on the newsreel how you pulled it off. Yeah. Well, listen, Hick. I was too much for any big city police force to handle. They tried, but they couldn't. Took the United States government a pin a rap on me. Yeah, and they won't make it stick. Oh, you hick.
Johnny Rocco, played in the sinister and manic performance by Edward G. Robinson, is based off of Congressman J. Parnell Thomas, chairman of the House Un-American Activities Committee from 1947 to 1950. Houston considered him a fascist and a gangster and a criminal. He was right. Thomas would go on to be arrested for giving kickbacks to his niece and her maid and doing salary fraud in 1950, serving out a prison sentence at Danbury Prison along with Lester Cole and Ring Gardner Jr., two screenwriters he had gotten arrested as part of the Hollywood 10.
Do you know what you want?
Yes, and I had hopes once, but I gave them up.
Hopes for what?
A world in which there's no place for Johnny Rocco.
Yeah? Okay, soldier.
Frank McCloud isn't a coward in Houston's Key Largo. He's a cynical person who's completely fed up with the state of the world he was promised would be better after World War II. Instead, gangsters and thugs like Johnny Rocco are allowed to get away with continuing to control the country and walk around with impunity. The classic Bogart, I only care about me and mine attitude, which is always just a mask that slips off when the less fortunate or those he grows to care about are in trouble, is compared to a head saying one thing and a whole life saying another. I believe today we'd call Frank McCloud a bit black-pilled. It's an intense drama, much of it taking place during a crazy hurricane that ends up wrecking part of the hotel while they all stand inside. There's also a subplot where two Seminole Indians have escaped from prison where they've rejoined their tribe, and two cops are poking around the hotel looking for them, showing up at the worst times possible. Mr. Temple has a good relationship with the Seminole who live around him and often tries to help them, showing the good nature of people that's supposedly inside of Frank McCloud too, but is under a massive cynicism and darkness. There's also a broken alcoholic former singer named Gay Dawn who's tortured by a cruel Johnny Rocco who's trying to force her into sobriety during a hurricane, where she's forced to give an incredibly pathetic rendition of Moanin' Low for a drink. For those scenes, Claire Trevor, who played Gay Dawn, would get the Best Supporting Actress Oscar.
Moanin' low, my sweet man, I love him so. Though he's mean as can be, he's the kind of man, he's the kind of woman like me.
The climax of the film is Frank McCloud stranded with Rocco's mafia goons on a boat to Cuba, trying to figure out how to take them out one by one. I'm sure that the film's transformation of Frank McCloud into a true war hero he once was made it extra painful when Bogart gave in to his own cowardice and wrote that anti-communist article just weeks after filming ended.
He's all right, Dad. He's coming back to us.